'Tis I, your old pal King Chuck. I'm actually recording this at home right now. My dad is actually in surgery. As I'm speaking, he's actually getting a device put in his back to stop the pain that he's been having for 2 years now. So good for him. I get to have the place to myself for a few hours at least, as far as I know. So, yeah, I actually came back home to feed my dog. Yes, my dog / executive producer. I gave her a dental treat to because she was a good girl, because she ate all of her food like any responsible dog does. She hasn't eaten pretty well in the last couple of days, but then I gave her some new food and she really likes it. So anyway, you know, as we all have heard by now, we had a very bad tragedy in the world of entertainment. Rob Reiner and his wife were both stabbed to death at their home in Los Angeles. Rob was 78 years old, and he was the son, of course, of the great Carl Reiner, a legendary comedian and TV producer and writer. So what happened was Rob Reiner rose to fame in the 70s, of course, as we all know, from he was Mike Stivic, the meathead from All in the Family. And after the show ended in 1979, he went on to pursue a directing career. Although he did some occasional acting, it was mostly directing. He did This is Spinal Tap, and of course he recently did a sequel to the film, and of course A Few Good Men. He did The Goonies. He did When Harry Met Sally. Of course, it was his mother who uttered, I'll have what she's having, when Meg Ryan did her little orgasm scene. And it just it was like this man was one of the greatest directors of my childhood and well into today. And anyway, allegedly, word has it that his son may have been responsible. He and his wife were hacked at the neck, and his son had, it was a well-known fact that he raised his son with severe mental issues, and it's like sometimes you just gotta ask yourself, why him? Why Carl? And word even had it, according to TMZ, that Carl and his son actually had a giant argument recently at a Christmas party held by Conan O'Brien. But anyway, first of all, because of this, Sally Struthers is now the sole surviving cast member of All in the Family, of that original cast, of course. And another thing, too, is the amount of love and tributes he's gotten, not just from fellow entertainers, but even politicians, former presidents. Obama gave him a tribute. Joe Biden gave him a wonderful tribute. Even former vice president and the woman who should have been president right now, Kamala Harris, gave him a tribute too. But what about Donald? Oh boy. This is, Donald basically said, well, he was killed because he had Trump derangement syndrome. Oh, he hated me. Oh, he died because he didn't like me. And, I love all these people who stood up to him and said, "Fuck you, you fucking asshole. What is wrong with you?" Donald Trump should never give tribute to anybody. Period. Full stop. Donald Trump is a fucking asshole who can't do shit right. He's a bankrupter. He's an abuser. And now he's running our country into a pit. And for him to basically thumb his nose at a beloved entertainer who was murdered, and for him to say that he died because he didn't like me. Okay, guess what? Any person with an IQ over room temperature hates Donald Trump, and the poll numbers prove it. Right now, his approval rating is what? 38%? Nobody likes him. Nobody. 30-fucking-8% last time I checked. And here's proof that he is really unpopular. Last week, when he was at this casino in the Poconos, it's like just, a year or two ago, he was selling out arenas. He was in front of, 10, 15, 20,000 people. And unfortunately, he's gone from that to not even being able to sell out half of a banquet hall at a casino. And while he was there in the Poconos, he decided to stand up and bitch and moan about the people from so-called shithole countries again. Oh, these people. Oh, they're the murderers. Oh, they're the rapists. Oh, they give us the fentanyl. And he talks about, why can't we get good people from good countries? And he name drops countries like Sweden and Denmark. I got news for you. It's because those countries have more rights than we do. Gee, Donald, once again, you've proven to the world how effing stupid you are. Okay, history lesson. We all know that here, if you live here in Grand Rapids and you don't know about Meijer, well, you're hiding under a rock full time. So the story with Meijer was that it was founded by a guy named Hendrick Meijer, Greenville, Michigan, 1934. He was a town barber, and story was that he had some space in his barber shop that he used to lease out to other people. But it was the Great Depression, so he went to a warehouse in Grand Rapids and on credit purchased like $300 worth of goods, $200 something. And he sold them at a rock bottom price, and he made a lot of money. And it got to be so popular that he ended up having to build a full-blown supermarket. He ended up building grocery stores all across West Michigan, Grand Rapids. And of course, in 62, the family started the Thrifty Acres concept, Anyway, so Hendrick Meijer, here's a fun fact about him. He was a progressive. And the reason why was because he grew up in the Netherlands, and what happened was when he worked at a factory over there, every day it was life or death. He'd walk in, and chances were that he probably saw people get severely injured during the job, and they didn't. The bosses of that company didn't give two shits about their employees. They didn't give a fuck if you died or not. And Hendrick was reading up on people like Eugene Debs, and so anyway, he moved to America. He actually moved to Holland, Michigan first. Dumb idea, because it was a very conservative town. He talked about his leftist ideas, his progressive ideas, and people laughed at him. They thought he was a kook. So he ended up. That's why he moved to Greenville. And of course, I told you the story about I'll tell you more about the Meijer family. Of course, Hendrick Meijer died. His son, who was Fred Meijer, took over. And he was the one who was instrumental of turning Meijer from a supermarket chain to a full-blown supercenter chain. Now Frederick was a very frugal guy. He only lived in a $500,000 home. He would drive a car until it broke down. He was very pro-union. But guess what happened? He became a Republican. He was he was buddies with all the elitists in Grand Rapids. And same with his kids. And of course, Peter Meijer was a U.S. congressman. But the good news was he hated Trump because of what happened on January 6th. Peter Meijer almost died because of all these assholes who were storming the Capitol. Anyway, but it was not just Hendrick Meijer. Millions of people, way back in the olden days, millions of people would flee these countries like the Netherlands and England, Italy, Germany. They came here because they were shithole countries, the shithole countries of their day. And they all came in on giant ships. And then what happened was, of course, we had the Great Depression. We had FDR and the New Deal. And, of course, we had World War II. And we stormed Germany and Japan and England. Turned those countries into parking lots. And guess what happened? FDR was the man who decided that Americans, after the Second World War, and as the baby boom was booming, they were FDR was discussing a second Bill of Rights. He wanted to give everyone free health care, a free home to live in, farmers, free college education, this, that, and everything else. And guess what happened? When he died, obviously Truman took over. But there was the Red Scare here in America. The good old Red Scare. Oh no, the communists were going to destroy us. So we voted in Eisenhower. And Eisenhower wasn't a man about health care. Oh, he was definitely not a progressive. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, when he was president, we actually had a recession towards the end of the 1950s, I believe. The point is that people... So this is what happens. When FDR died, his people went to all these countries that were destroyed during the Second World War and gave them the rights that FDR wanted us to have. And look at Japan now. Look at England. Look at all those countries. Look at Japan. Their automotive industry is better than ours. You know, hell, I drive a Buick, folks. I drive a Buick. Once upon a time, Flint, Michigan was the town that Buick came from. There was even a giant sign as soon as you drove down 75 into Flint. And it said, "Welcome to Buick City." Well, the billboard is still there, but it's been pretty much covered up by other things. Yeah, it's basically a ghost sign, kind of, but the story was a lot of Buicks are now made in South Korea, including my Buick. Hey, it's one of the best cars I ever owned. I haven't had any major issues with it so far, but then again, it only has 22,000 miles on it. But the point is, our industries are dying. We don't have the rights that they do. And that is why you don't see people from good countries come here. Instead, but these other countries where all the people are coming from, yeah, they're horrible countries. We get people from Iraq. We get people from India. We get people from here in America. We get people from Africa. Donald Trump loves to blast people from Sudan. And here in Grand Rapids, it is a melting pot. One of the nicest ladies I've met since I moved here 23 years ago, she was from Ethiopia. Yeah, you can't understand a goddamn thing she's saying, but she's a sweet lady. And, even my mom... So the story is, my mom moved into the same apartment complex I lived in for 23... 19 years. 19 years, almost 20. And what happened is she is experiencing a lot of the same stuff I dealt with. And, in her complex, she's got a family, there's a family from Sri Lanka. Real nice people. There's a family from Kazakhstan. Real nice people. I mean, yes, there are, when I lived there was some drama. There were kids yelling and screaming and running around with no parental supervision, no adults. Some of these kids would even come to my place and beg me to take them to the pool. And I said, nope, go ask your mom. Yeah, as a matter of fact, there was, true story. Many years ago at my apartment complex, there was this posse of young children. And what happened was one of them was like a 7-year-old girl. There was a white guy who lived at my apartment building. And he lured her up into his apartment, and he exposed himself to her. And he got arrested. He got thrown in jail. But because of this, that little posse stopped hanging out in my apartment. I mean, it's a way to stop them from doing it, but not the right way. You see, Donald Trump wants you to feel that the problem that we have as a society are foreigners. In that their culture is evil. And it's not just an American problem. The most famous one... So anyway, I'm going to tell you this. On my birthday, May 26th, a lot of well-known celebrities died that day. Eddie Albert, he was from Green Acres. Remember that show, Green Acres? Kids say the darndest things. That guy, Art Linkletter, remember him? Maybe you don't. But he had that TV, he had a show called House Party. It was on CBS in the 50s and 60s. And he used to have a segment called Kids Say the Darndest Things, where he interviewed a group of kids. And it was a really popular segment on his show. And then He died on my birthday. Friz Freleng, one of the creators of Bugs Bunny, died on my birthday. And Andy Fletcher, one of the founding members of Depeche Mode, he died on my birthday. Most of the people who died on my birthday were all men. And I was looking through a list of all the people who died on my birthday. There was only one major woman to die on my birthday, and her name was Flick Colby. Flick Colby, if you're British and if you're a baby boomer British person, you definitely knew who she was. She was a dancer and choreographer on the BBC's Top of the Pops TV show for many, many years. Well, Flick's story was that she was born here in America. She was actually born in Pennsylvania, grew up in a small town in upstate New York called Clinton, over by Utica. And her father was actually a German professor at Hamilton College. So the rest of the story was that Flick's story was that she ended up she went to a school in Massachusetts. She ended up going to New York, where she danced with the Joffrey Ballet. So anyway, the rest of the story was that but then she moved to England. She met up with a bunch of girls, and of course they named their little tribe Pan's People. And they became very popular. They were on Top of the Pops for many years. But anyway, long story short, Flick ended up back in America because she got fired from the BBC for being too old hat. So, and music videos were a lot cheaper to show anyway. So what happened was Flick ended up opening up a small gift shop in New York, back in Clinton. And anyway, long story short, she basically spent the rest of her life just living a low-profile life, and she died of breast cancer, as a matter of fact. Yeah, she actually died on my birthday, May 26, 2011. So anyway, of the 6 original members of Pan's People, only 2 are left. One is named Babs Powell, and the other is Dee Dee Wild. And Dee Dee is 80 years old and still dancing. Now, not too long ago in England, there was a man who stabbed a bunch of small children at a dance club, a dance school in England, and the kids, there were like 3 kids who died, and Dee Dee actually made a post on social media that was pure disgusting. Basically, she said that these people who bring their culture to her country are the problem, and that they live a culture of violence. And because the guy who did all the stabbing, he was like Muslim, Islam, whatever. But then you look at the recent attacks in Australia. White guy with a gun shouldn't have all these Jewish people. The guy who actually saved these people from being shot at, the guy who took the gun from this asshole, he was Muslim. You see, this is what Donald Trump is doing. He is telling this world that Americans need to be hateful. And that one person with a gun is, it's like, unless you're white and Christian, fuck you. So anyway, Donald Trump is a total scumbag. Because, look, folks, look at Rob Reiner. Rob Reiner was a man who made a career of making us think with that show, All in the Family. He wanted us to think. And that show, and Norman Lear was a wonderful producer too, for helping to create that show, and Maude and Sanford and Son and so many others. I mean, and he was a great guy to all in all. You see, this is what happens when ignorance takes control of our society. Donald Trump wants you to think that Muslims are going to destroy us. People who are non-Christians are going to destroy us. He lied to us about, what happened, what's going on in South Africa. They're killing the white Christians. No. Bullshit. Yeah, that's why we weren't invited to the G20 summit. Donald Trump needs to shut the fuck up and realize that he's bringing this country down. I seriously think he has dementia. I think, and of course, Caroline Leavitt going around and telling everyone, these things on his arm, they're just from shaking hands. No, I think what's really happening is, they put him in a machine, to help cure his dementia. That's what I'm thinking. It wouldn't shock me. And one last thing too, Saturday was the 100th birthday of a true comedy great. Speaking of Carl Reiner. Carl Reiner was the man who gave us the Dick Van Dyke Show. Dick Van Dyke turned 100 years old. CBS should have given him a birthday celebration that evening. But they did not. Guess what they showed instead? A stupid town hall with Erica Kirk, hosted, of course, by Barry Weiss, the new editor-in-chief at CBS News. And word had it that major sponsors wouldn't even touch the goddamn thing. As a matter of fact, they say that the biggest company to sponsor the event was, believe it or not, Chia Pet. Chia. Oh my God. So that's what I have to say about that. I hope that, CBS is eating plenty of crow as far as I'm concerned. I hope to God that, something will happen to Trump sooner or later, and he'll be the one paying the price and not us. Because he's proven how much bullshit that we're going through right now. And, the one person I really need to thank, by the way, one person I really enjoy is Clay Jones, a cartoonist. Clay recently had a stroke, and he had trouble drawing for a little bit, but he's back on the mend again. He's publishing new cartoons, and he published a great tribute today to Rob Reiner. Rob Reiner seeing St. Peter telling him, "Thank you for cranking our life to 11." And I would say the same thing to him too. Thank you, Mr. Reiner. It's too bad what happened with you, but it had, sometimes shit happens, and we all have to understand that. Thank you for all the years of entertainment you've given us. You will be forever missed, and will be forever in your debt. Anyway, I gotta get back to the hospital. Everyone's texting me and whatnot, so I'm out of here. See me later. Good day. Good luck. Bye-bye.